guys, so today we're going to be making these beautiful tulip earrings, as you can see right here, and I'm going to be showing you how to make it. It does use the micro crochet sort of technique, which is just the same as crochet except you're using a smaller hook, but I'll take you right into it and hopefully you can make something as adorable as these on the way. Enjoy! So for this next part, I'm going to take you through it because I think it's a little easier when you have an instructional video. So I'm going to be using this 0.3mm special copper wire for jewelry, and I'm just going to take a reasonable amount and fold it. Maybe I'll have like 12 centimeters in length, and I'm going to fold it, and then right at the end here I'm going to use a pair of pliers and just cut it just like so. So you can see I've got a fairly decent amount of straight copper wire here. It is around about, just from eyeballing, about 10 to 12 centimeters in length. So we've got this right here, and I've folded it in half as well, just so we've created a little bit more thickness as we're threading it through. Now what I'm going to do at this point is use a needle, and see the ends right here. I'm going to thread these ends through the eye of the needle, and this will make it easier for me to do the next step. So I'm just going to fold that down so I don't get lost with that. And then I'm going to grab my tulip head. I'm going to insert the needle inside and come out at the magic center right there. Now I'm not going to do anything just at this point. I'm not going to pull it through. I'll pull it through a little bit later. But at the other or opposite end, what I'm going to do is just slightly fold it. And the reason why I'm folding it is because I don't want this side to come out at the other end of the tulip. So I'm going to fold it once, and maybe I'll fold it again twice. So let's fold it twice. So this should give me a fairly decent thickness, so as it not to come out again at the other side. And I'm just going to slightly fold it up so it looks like a little bit of a leg, if I were to weave this into a leg of an amigurumi product or something. Now I've got my needle out here, and I'm going to pull this needle all the way through now. This should be relatively straightforward, and I'm going to pull it all the way to the end, and then I can take my needle out at this point. I just don't want to wrap it, just make sure the needle is coming out just like that. So the needle's come out now. Now I probably do have too much wire out here, but at the end we can cut this off as well. So it's always better to have too much rather than not enough and having to start again. Now at this point my wire is fairly secured in here, and now I'm going to add this fiber filling to the top of my tulip head. And as I do that, I'm going to use a pair of cutters right here, and I'm just going to gently press this in. I really like using cutters. If you have something else that helps to like condense the fiber filling as you pull it in, then go ahead and use that. Just whatever works. Something that's small and enough to be able to press that fiber filling and condense it into your tulip or whatever you're using. So we're just going to take a little bit of fiber filling off there, and then we're going to continue condensing this right into the tulip all the way. Don't push too hard, I would suggest, because you don't want to poke your cutter right at the bottom, but just enough to be able to continue pressing all the way through. And just like so, we've got quite a bit now in here. May even have a little bit too much, but that's for you to tell. I've kind of used a pinch of fiber filling to be able to well, I've just used a pinch of fiber filling really, and I've just taken some out there, and I'm going to keep pushing it inside until it's nice and condensed all the way inside. And you don't want to have too much of your fiber filling popping up at the end, because that's going to disrupt your sewing, which is the next step that we're going to be doing now. So you really want to make sure that fiber filling is all the way inside your tulip, if that makes sense. I hope it does. It's actually really cool that we're making these tulip earrings, and I really hope you like them by the end of it. Let's see what we can do. And if you've never done micro crochet before, well, I am the exact same. I've only been studying micro crochet this past week, and I have found it very fun, especially when it comes to making jewelry or little dainty pieces. I have enjoyed it so much. So I hope you enjoy your journey of micro crochet as well as you're doing and making these beautiful tulip earrings. Alright, so now we have the tulip, the fiber filling all the way inside the tulip, and this is the point at which I'm going to weave my yarn tail through a needle, which I've already done at this point. Then I'm going to find that center point, which is right here. I'm kind of going to fold the tulip a little bit and just find the point at which it makes that half. And once I found it, I'm going to weave my needle through that exact same stitch, wherever that half is, and then I'll just pull it like that. And then I'm going to weave the needle again, try not to get the fiber filling if you can, and then pull it through again and just make it a little bit tighter. Now you can do this another time if you feel like this will help keep it nice and firm. I'm just going to do it just to make sure. I usually only do it twice, but seeing as I'm here now, let's just do it. So there we go. We have two ends of our tulip, and I'm going to press in the fiber filling as I go, especially because I don't want to have that fiber filling showing up at the end here. Now I'm going to find a reasonable halfway point, which is probably about there. It might look a little bit strange as I pull it across just because it's taking it from the side, but the next portion, I'm going to turn this around. I'm not going to pull it just yet. I'm going to dig this part inside, as you can see. So I'm really pushing in that fiber filling there so I don't see it. And then I'm going to go to a reasonable halfway point as well and weave my yarn through that. And then now at this point, I'm going to pull it all together, just like so. Now, if you really want to make this even, you can count your stitches and not eyeball it like me. Now I'm going to put my yarn needle through that first stitch that I went into underneath the center part. So you really got to make sure you're underneath the center here, and then through that very same stitch at the end. And then we're just going to, same as normal, weave the yarn through both of those little ends up there. Make sure the yarn thread is going through as well. You can see as we pull it tight, it's starting to close now. And I might just go in through that same side again, just to make sure we've come at the right place. And we're making these 4 different sides of our tulip, making sure it just all works in there nice and beautifully, just as we've done here. Now, if you do have fiber filling at the top here, you might want to pick it apart. You could use a pair of pliers just to really grab it there, or you could use your cutters and try to push it back in as best as you can, but the aim is not to have too much fiber filling showing at the top here, because you do want to hide it. You don't want to have a fiber filling tulip that is very visible. Okay, now where I've come out of right here, the next thing that I'm going to be doing is weaving along the sides of each of these 4 petals. So I'm going right into the stitch that is closest to the center. There should be 2 stitches for each technically petal, right? So here's my first one. You can see I'm going close to the center, those 2 sides, and I'm going to just weave my yarn needle through that and hopefully not get the wire tangled up in this, and then just pull it through. And I'm going to do that for each of them. Now this petal was a little bit shorter just because I didn't really count those stitches very well at the beginning, but that is more than okay. It will be fine. Then for this one, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Grab those 2 little stitches that are closest to the center and weave through it. And then finally, for my 4th petal, I'm going to do again the exact same thing. So just weaving through those 4 petals all the way across. There we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do, just to finish this off nice and neatly, is go around the center again. So I'm going to grab my needle, work my way underneath and back to where I came out of. So I'm going to pull that once, pull that nice and tight. We've got a beautiful center now, and I'm going to weave my needle across and come out at any stitch in my tulip, and I'll just pull that nice and tightly as it goes across right there, just like so. And now we have a wonderful tulip head for our tulip earring. And what I can do here is just chop the yarn just like so and kind of poke it back inside my tulip, and there we go. There is the beginnings of my tulip earring. we've made our leaf and the beginning of a tulip, it is the next part where we wrap our stem with 1-ply green yarn. So this is what I'm using right here. I'm just using 1-ply green yarn, so I'm making a really small thread. Okay, now this is how I'm going to wrap. I'm going to have the tail end that comes down a little bit here, and then I'm going to push my yarn all the way to the top and start wrapping from the top. And it doesn't really matter if you don't have it too thick on the way down, and this is because we're actually going to come all the way back up once we reach the bottom, and you'll see this as we get there. Try your best to make the wrapping a little bit tight because you don't want to make that too loose. You don't want it to fall apart, and you don't want wire to be visible as well as you're doing this. So just wrap it as you can and do your best with that. Now once you get to about 1.5 centimeters down the side, what you will do is now add your leaf. And do you remember those 3 chains that we had? We're going to have those woven in as we weave the yarn as well. So just line that up as best as you can and have the first chain lined up where you want it to wrap. So I'm doing it just there, and now I'm going to wrap around that leaf all the way down, including those chains as I wrap. And it will be a little bit thicker here, but this is more than fine. You want it a little bit thicker anyway. So you're going to continue to wrap the leaf into the stem as you're continuing to wrap all the way down here as well. And if you have extra yarn tails, you might want to chop those off and start weaving them into your stem at the same time. So we're just doing that now. We're going around and around until we reach almost the bottom. And you know what, I might end up also chopping a little bit of my wire here because I feel like it's a little bit too long. Now you can see my yarn tails over here, which I need to weave in at the same time. So we're just trying to do that as best we can and as neatly as we can. And just do your best here to do that. Sometimes it just requires a little bit of manipulation, changing the sides. It is a little bit delicate and dainty and kind of floppy, this wire, so you do have to hold it as best as you can. Maybe even a pair of pliers would be more helpful, and I could suggest that at some point if I wanted to. So again, we're just continuing until I get past this tail, and then I will chop the yarn. Not the yarn, the wire. I'm going to chop the wire very soon because we have a very long earring right here, and I might chop it, let's see, maybe just about here. I'm going to chop it right there because I think we have a lot of wire, probably a bit too much wire. And we're just going to wrap as best we can. And then once we get to about maybe that's 2 millimeters there, we're going to fold the yarn just so we can make a loop. You see that loop? And as we do that, as we come back, all of this wire that's there, we're going to wrap it, and we're going to wrap this part quite thickly. So we're going to, you can see I'm wrapping right around it, not when I get to the loop. When I get to the loop, that's the point in which I need to stop, right? But everything else is going to be nice and thick, and we're going to keep that same consistency throughout that folded section of the wire. Just, we want that a little bit thicker. It creates a bit more texture and beautifies our dainty little rose, which is lovely. And then once you've passed that point, you can see I've wrapped it quite thickly right there. We're just going to continue to make our way to the top. And when we get to the portion of the leaf, which is where I'm about to get to just here, I'm going to do something that looks like this. So I'm going to wrap around the leaf and then below it, around the stem and below it. And I'll just do that twice, and then I'll continue making my way up. Now, if this top part wasn't done thick with your wrapping, you can add a little bit more wrap here to get the desired thickness. And this is why I was saying at the beginning it didn't really matter how much you were weaving or wrapping that wire towards. Now that I can see this, I probably did cut the wire a little bit too short, but that's okay. We'll just make another pair of earrings, or another earring that looks like this, and then we'll be absolutely fine. Okay, at this point I'm going to cut the wire just about here. Give me a great amount that I can work with here. And I'm going to tie a double knot. So I'm gonna grab my yarn through the center of this circle. This will be the first knot that I'm doing right there, and then we're going to go around again, and we're going to come here through the circle and pull the yarn, and this will be the double knot, or that second knot that we've just made. Okay, so we are looking great at this point. All that we need to do now is grab our yarn needle, as you can see here, weave the thread through the eye of the needle, just like that. So we've threaded it through, and then I'm going to find that very center magic ring center, you can see right there, and I'm just going to insert my needle and come out at any point and pull it all the way through, and just pull it nice and neatly, then chop the yarn at that point, and then just push that little piece back inside our tulip to hide it. And now that we can pull the leaf and kind of manipulate it so it looks good. Now to give it a little bit of a twisty effect, I just use the back of my hook, and all I do here is weave it around just a little bit. Maybe I won't make this too big, or as in too much of the wrapping, because I made it a little bit smaller. There, that would work, huh? See, we've got a little bit less of a wrap, so just make sure it's even. And you've got this loop at the top here that you've made. We've got a beautiful dainty tulip that we have made, and now we just need to add the earring part to it. Okay, so here I've got my sterling silver earrings, the connector piece, and just the back piece right here, as you can see. You can grab those off of Amazon, relatively cheap. It doesn't cost too much, but make sure you get sterling silver earrings just so they don't rust. You don't want the really cheap ones that will rust. Okay, now at this point I'm going to grab the circle piece. You can see it's very tiny here, so I'm using pliers to help me out. And then I'm just going to open it up a little bit. Okay, so you see we've opened it up a little bit. And then this is the easy part, which is great. See how we made that little loop? We're just going to flick our ring part through that. And then we're going to add the back of, oops. Okay, there we go. We add the earring to that. We close it up with our pair of pliers. You just want to be careful that you're not squeezing anything else at this point. So just close that up nice and neatly. Then all we do is, I have one of these because I'll be selling these on Etsy at some point. I'll be inserting it into this part here. And then all I would do is grab the back stopper. And I think that's exactly what this is called, a stopper. And we just insert that up the earring. And there we have our beautiful tulip earrings, as you can see. So I've made a set of pink ones, made a set of red ones, a couple of red ones actually, and yeah, then you have your very own tulips to wear. So I hope you enjoy that.